So the Xbox Series X has been out over a year and more gamers are slowly getting their paws on it, but it's time to take a look at which games push the hardware the most in 2022. Which game's graphics will have you stop playing just to admire what the dev team and artists have worked on to make your eyes swell with tears of joy. The visuals that blur the line between a game and reality, or even those games whose stylized visuals still have you weeping and reaching over to throw your last gen system in the trash. Now this is a list of 10. I could easily make the list longer and include more games, but these are the titles that excel on all levels, and the games need to also have had an Xbox Series X enhancement. Some are older and some are new, but of course, like the video, subscribe, comment, and give it a thumbs up and drop by the Discord. But let's check out the absolute best damn graphics you can experience on your Xbox Series X. And remember, this is purely about the Series X, not the S. And with that, let's fire up some gorgeous 4K footage. Let's do it. Kicking off at number 10 is Halo Infinite, and many viewers may be thinking why this is so far down the list, but it shows how strong every other game here is when it comes to its visuals. Halo Infinite can look downright gorgeous at times and has the obligatory holy shit moments, especially when you look off far into the distance, seeing the Halo ring in all of its enormity, the sun hitting the landscape just right so that it gets shown off in all of its beauty. The texture work is fantastic, and the extra development time certainly helped everything from the terrain, enemies and weapons becoming far better looking and more polished than what was first shown off. It all runs at a consistent 60 frames a second, and any dips were tiny and didn't affect gameplay in any detrimental way. Where Halo Infinite is slightly let down, and I mean slightly, as it still looks great with the aforementioned textures, but it's just the repetitiveness and sameness of the indoor environments, which seem to use the same endless large room and corridors, just lacking what the outdoors can offer from a visual setting. Nighttime looks great, but Halo Infinite at its best looking is in the daytime. Sun out, so you can grapple shot your way all over this fantastic looking map, plus the increase in the field of view. At number 9 we have Assassin's Creed Valhalla, a cross-platform game from a series that seems to have more iterations across more platforms than quite possibly anything else out there. And even though I'm more of a fan of the older games, before they wanted to become more like The Witcher 3 and give you huge landscapes and so many quests that at times I just wanted to take an axe to my own head, there is no denying that Valhalla is one pretty game, and is an example for myself where on the Series X, the games can look stunning in performance mode, where yes, there is a slight drop in visual quality, but it's more than made up for with its silky smooth frame rate, which looks and feels spectacular as you climb, jump, run, or make your way around the map in your boat. Just like Halo Infinite, when the landscape isn't lit up at the best times of day to show it off, it can look a little more plain and less impressive, but it's still a showcase for the system, and the weapons and character models all hold up as well. You may need to neglect family, work and personal hygiene to finish the game in any sort of reasonable time, but it's worth checking out to at least see the visual splendor. For number 8, we continue with another Ubisoft game, and it's Watch Dogs Legion. And if you're one for repetition and finding enjoyment in doing the same sorts of missions over and over again, then I guess you will want to play this. But even though I found the game to be a bit of a slog when it came to its story and, actually doing interesting missions, the freedom in recruiting characters and having different abilities is one thing I hope gets expanded upon in future games. But the world itself is beautiful, with gorgeous ray tracing on display, realistic reflections, and lighting bringing this future London to life. Character models can differ in terms of quality, but the city itself feels alive due to the amount of characters and cars that are everywhere. For myself, the focus was definitely on creating this visual treat for gamers, and at 60 frames a second, it feels so much better to play. Ubisoft definitely put the time and effort into delivering a visually impressive game. I just wish they had more people working on the missions and stories apart from one work experience kid. Coming in at number 7 we have Metro Exodus, another cross-gen game, but I still have no idea how it's even legal to have a game not only look this damn good on last gen systems, but how amazing it looks on the Series X, and that was before we received the 60 frames a second mode and the ray tracing, which took the game from gorgeous to, well, more gorgeous and then some. I've always preferred the dark claustrophobic tunnels of the first games when compared to Exodus, but there's no denying that you'll be impressed with the sun-drenched landscapes, the sand and dirt giving the environment that hazy, hot look about it. The indoor environments and their moody lighting, coupled with the enemies and creatures you kill or try to avoid, all look fantastic and adds to this being one great looking game. Character models can lack some detail and animation, but if there's another game in the series, then chances are you'll need a change of pants judging by what 4A games did with this last gen hardware. Even more impressive now. At number 6, it's Hitman 3, and I'll start this one by saying this one thing again. The downside of this game is the character models, whereby they look and move, well, a bit too much like video game characters, but it does stand out when compared to other titles out there. But when it comes to the environments, both the indoors and outdoors, then you won't mind even being put in a chokehold just to be able to lay your eyes on this game. Even though this one lacks ray tracing, and it's apparently getting added sometime in the future, it's an incredibly impressive looking game. I'm not even all that far into it, but Hitman 3 offers great visuals across multiple different levels, which all differ from each other in terms of look, but they all manage to look fantastic. Plus, when it comes to crowd density, it can be and always has been super impressive in the Hitman series, which just makes the world more believable. The attention to detail adds to bringing these locations to life, plus it's never ran better. It seems to often be a forgotten series on consoles, but check out Hitman 3, especially if you're after something a little more slower paced. And at number 5, we have Control Ultimate Edition, and here is where the list gets even harder when it comes to ranking games. And whereas Control could struggle on last gen systems, even the One X, the Ultimate Edition for Series X smooths out and increases the frame rate, and there is also a ray tracing mode at 30 frames per second as well. For me personally, the performance is king and the lighting and reflections already look good, but you do lose some extra layer of realism without the ray tracing. This game runs at a 1440p resolution, but it's almost meaningless as the image and detail is exceptional, especially when you are destroying everything in sight, including the concrete. Control needed the next gen systems in order for it to be played as it should be. Character models are well detailed, especially in cutscenes, plus the game is just soaked in atmosphere. Another gem from Remedy Games, and with one of the most memorable and fun levels later in the game in years. Not many other games have this sort of destruction on such a large and small scale, and just adds to Control Ultimate Edition being one of the best looking games out there. For number 4, it's Gears 5, the long running series which has spanned several console generations, and another game that looked stunning on the Xbox One, but now on the Series X, it's just drop dead gorgeous and a showcase for how new hardware can reinvigorate older games. With its dynamic resolution, Gears 5 proves that the quality of the game's graphics comes down to more than just that. The detail in the world and the use of Ultra PC settings sees Gears 5 still remain a visual benchmark, not only on Xbox, but on all gaming systems out there that can run it. Retaining the 60 frames per second for the campaign and 120 frames in multiplayer, the game is still breathtaking. From the environments, the lighting, the look of the characters and weapons, Gears 5 is one of the main games you show off to other people so you can feel all warm and fuzzy about your new Series X purchase. If Gears 6 is years away, then we can only imagine what eye-popping visual treats the Coalition are going to give us with it. Simply stunning. Coming in at number 3, we have Microsoft Flight Simulator, the game which just had no chance to run on last gen systems, and one which absolutely pushes top-end PCs hard, but the Xbox Series X does an amazing job, and when it comes to large game worlds, having the entire Earth at your disposal is pretty damn impressive. And if you want to visit all of it, or many parts of it, you'll need the patience of a monk and be willing to put in the time to properly know how to handle different sorts of aircraft in a realistic way. Or forget about all that. Turn off any settings that make your brain hurt and dive into some quick flights. And Flight Sim is just a remarkable game and will have your jaw dropping at times when seeing just how majestic so much of this game can be. Utilizing the power of the Series X and that of the cloud, Flight Sim isn't just a success in terms of its visuals. It's a success that Microsoft wants to bring these experiences to consoles and console gamers. Running at 30 frames per second is no problem here, and the only real downside in terms of visuals is the texture quality when getting close to the ground. Not a big deal, and you probably shouldn't be that close to the ground in an aircraft anyway. But if you even want to impress non-gamers, show them Flight Sim. Incredible. For number 2, it's Guardians of the Galaxy, and to say this game was a surprise was an understatement in more ways than one. A sleek, lengthy action adventure, and no bullshit microtransactions that the Avengers game had. This is a superhero game as it should be. Fun, memorable, self-contained, and packing more heat in its visuals than Rocket has in his arsenal. Guardians of the Galaxy is gorgeous and is constantly throwing up new areas for you to feast your eyes upon. Plus it also has a ray tracing mode now for Series X, which looks awesome, but it does run at 30 frames a second. Or you can play the game at 60, but at a much lower 1080p. I tend to favour performance mode, but each one is worth checking out, and they both run and look fantastic. The ray tracing holds a solid 30 frames, and the performance mode still looks top notch in terms of visuals. There is just so much to enjoy here, and you'll be impressed with what the black box is pumping out onto the screen. The amount of small details in indoor and outdoor environments is excellent, as are the effects and character models. Fantastic game and graphically stunning. And at number 1 is the eye-melting, orgasmic Forza Horizon 5, and considering that each previous game has always been a visual showcase for the Xbox and PC, Playground Games have somehow made the 5th installment even more impressive from a visual standpoint. Whether it's the sweeping vistas you'll see that stretch off far into the distance, the small details in the towns, or the increase in vegetation in forest-like areas as you tear around kicking up water and dirt onto your windscreen, Forza Horizon 5 is the greatest showcase for the Series X that you can have at this moment, and the game itself is an absolute gem and absolute quality in all areas. Packing a visual or performance mode, each is incredibly playable, so it's up to you which you prefer. Silky smooth frame rate or a bump up in the visual fidelity. The cars and reflections look drop dead gorgeous and stunning, and if you enjoy the photo modes in games, then friends and family may not see you for weeks as you try and get the perfect shot. Trying to think how this series can possibly keep looking better with each game is enough to make your brain hurt. Forza Horizon 5 is a stunner. So there are my 10 most impressive visuals on the Xbox Series X at the moment, and you can see that it crosses multiple genres and see how the increased hardware is delivering new experiences on console like Microsoft Flight Simulator, or how older games are looking and performing much better now. But tell me which games have impressed you the most graphically down in the comments. Please give the video a thumbs up, share it, subscribe, and stop by the Discord, and I'll see you on the next video.